Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Okay, we can call the special Board of Ed meeting of 6/25/25 to order at 6:05. We're going to raise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So for a quick roll call, we have Sarah Thompson, Art Kalwara, here, Kathy Grant, Ibo Parlant, Anna Burrows, Megan Wicks, and Valerie Musciano, all the way from New York. Oh, and Amy's on too as well. Sorry, Amy's on the line as well. She's out of state as well. Okay, so in terms of the agenda this evening, it is really just to review the budget proposals and timeline as predicated from the last board meeting, where our last budget of 1.35 did not get approved. It didn't pass by 5 votes. So sadly enough, we're back to the place we are. So,
okay. Yeah. When we went to the selectmen's meeting last night, they asked if we could cut $20,000. I thought that they were going to ask for more, but with the 20,000, this is what happens. And I will tell you, fate has a way of helping us, because yesterday I had a non-certified person come in and they said, I'm going on Medicare. So that saved us $13,000 right off the bat. And then the other thing, and I think Amy is online, but we had a reorganization of the preschool program. And within that reorganization, and I'm sure Amy will be explaining that more to you, but we had a part-time paraprofessional, 3 hours a day, and that person had resigned. And Amy looked at the schedule and said, we can reasonably use existing staff to take care of the needs of the students. So services for children will not be cut. So we found the remaining balance of the $20,000 from there. And then I just rearranged a couple of dollars here and there within the budget proposal. But those are the two primary things that are different. So the new budget proposal, and I laid the outline in the letter that I sent to you, and I gave this letter to Dee Dee to include in the minutes for this board meeting so that we can record that. But please, another thing that I want to remember, and I added this to it, the Board of Ed has returned $333,135 to the town over the past 4 years. So we have an expenditure-only budget, but we, give money back to the town if we get a rebate or if we get, something back from excess cost or from another source of funding. Now, the per pupil cost is one of the most confusing things that the state uses, because Norfolk, Connecticut spends $49,000 per student. Yes, they do. And the state probably contributes 5% of that. But I hear stories of the state legislators saying, you're spending too much money. But that's a community, and there are communities that no matter what the Board of Ed asks, they would fund that because they have the tax base to do that. And quite frankly, my last assignment where I was acting superintendent, there was one town that would never vote the budget down, and there was another town that, would vote it down, but the budget would pass because the town that always supported education was overwhelming. And I want to tell the community that, the per pupil cost is really something that's about 15,000, well, 14, $15,000. It's not 34,000 or 35,000, and it's the most confusing number out there. And I'm going to editorialize a little bit. There's legislators and other people saying, you're spending too much per student, you need to regionalize. And we have school site governance. We called this meeting very quickly. You're making the decision for the children. If we were to regionalize, then we might get 2 votes on a Board of Ed, and the other town would get 7. And that might take away some of the decision-making power that you have as a local taxpayer. So I always express caution over that. And the other thing is the state will offer an incentive to regionalize, and they'll say, oh, we'll pay 80% of a building project. Then 4 years later, you have another building project, and they say, oh, we're only going to fund 20%. So, it's a never-ending thing. Now, the other thing that we're affected by is excess cost. That's the special education cost. And this budget proposal that you have before you, there is a reduction in teaching staff, but we've strategically increased some services for students, a certified nurse to help with handicapped children, a behaviorist to help, but we've cut back 1 special education teacher. So, there's lines here that show $60,000 in reductions. And I think we've put together something here that makes a big difference. Health insurance. Even though the health insurance went up, our health insurance for next year overall costs 2.93% less than it did this year. And that's unheard of. Whoever thought, health insurance would go down, but we've had some changes within that. I could go on, but I have to thank the Board of Ed because you spend hours and hours looking over this budget, and it's a good budget. It will meet the needs of our students. It takes care of transportation and sets in motion a plan of action to help with that. It sets in motion consultation services. And one final thing that is really very, very interesting is the cost of the technology and library. This year, between the library and technology, we spent $280,000, and the proposal that we've done with contracting services for EastCon, it saves $71,000. So we've had a resignation, we had a changeover in services, and those are the ways that you look at saving money. Now, the budget increase is reasonable for what we need to do, but what we cut, from the original proposal, I would have to go back and take a look, but we were, trimming here and there, but, we've come up with the 20,000 that I mentioned, and
we also decreased 17,000 based on the different quotes that came in. That was the original one.
Yes, that's right.
And then we did 20,000, we took from, almost 21,000 for maintenance.
Okay, yeah, yes, that's how we got the 49,000.
So 50
But
already.
I will tell you what I did, because there were things in the new, contract for the superintendent. I had to restore the money for the superintendent to meet the needs of the contract. There was a couple of language lines in there, but the budget proposal that I'm giving you tonight, restores that, which is important to meet some, contractual obligations. And, that's probably one line that increased, but that's all right.
I have concerns about how much we're cutting. I have concerns, the preschool program grant has been cut and will no longer cover their free lunch. Their free lunch is $5,288 a year. And we have to come up with that somewhere. I see in the line for fuel oil, you would cut that. You and I don't think there's anybody in Voluntown that thinks fuel oil is going to be cheaper next year than this year with all the problems in the Middle East. I see problems with how much we've set aside for gas. And the idea of even cutting an unfilled position right now, that leaves us nobody to pick up sick time, anything like that. I really have a problem with some of this. I understand we could drop the Medicare parts and say, switch from insurance to Medicare and that part, but I'm concerned about we're cutting this budget way too short. And I know already, right off the bat, we're minus 5,000 in the lunch department for preschool. If we want to continue to give them lunch, it's $5,288. We've made no accounting for that since that has come in. I just think fuel and gas and electricity, all of that is going to be higher next year. And I hate to not have even a single hour of sick time, of replacement time for if somebody is out sick. We do not have it with our paras cutting this position. I have a problem with cutting that much. We have cut quite a bit, and we did not have any high price raises in our budget. It was just contractual raises. In fact, our superintendent's coming in less than, he needs less benefits.
Again, the cutback in the para for the preschool program, Amy reviewed that very carefully, and it has reorganized, and she feels that we can meet the needs of students with regards to, what's happening. The other thing is that it could be that we might get another resignation from a para, and that means that if we get the resignation, we replace that person who might be on a lesser step for salary and other things. So there's some noted savings that could exist.
It can be
I will tell you, this year was one of the most challenging years because there was a 30-day period in there, and I said it at the public meeting. We had over $400,000 in outplacements. One was a 225 placement by the courts, and the other was a single student that required over $200,000 in tuition. And both those guardians moved out of town. If they didn't move out of town, we would be sitting here with a whole different story. And we've had it in the past. We've had people who have moved in, and then we have to go on essential spending and see where we have to hold expenses to be able to cover that. But we've never had to go back to the town, but it may come to that. But we can't count on the state for full funding for reimbursement, which is a real challenge. And they have never fully funded the excess cost, and it's a real challenge to the local taxpayer. So I think we've done the best we can, and is this a budget that we can work with and be flexible? Yes. And it's one thing to develop a budget, it's another thing, and the Board of Ed is relentless on this. They review the location report and every single expenditure, and if we have to make an adjustment, we try to make an adjustment to cover that expense. Now, there's been times in the past where I've had to go to the town and say, we may have a big expense here. Well, like the fire alarm system. And we thought we were gonna have a huge expense, and Jody came in and the experts came in and they said it's gonna be okay. There's been repairs and we can put that into a capital improvement plan. And if in the time is right, we can save money and then we can, do that. So that's the approach that's working. But we inform the town that we've had a huge potential expenditure that's coming up. And quite frankly, the town has responded to that and helped out. So, that's our approach with this. And I do think if you continue on that approach, you can do that with this budget because we're only talking about a few $1,000s for a part-time para. It's not even a, 27 and a half hour para. It's just for a few hours a week to cover a specific thing within the preschool. But the preschool program has changed a little bit, but we've made adjustments to accommodate that. So I think, based on what Amy said, we'll be okay. I'm gonna stop talking.
I have a question, Adam. How much do you currently have budgeted for the projected increase of health insurance?
For what?
The projected increase of health
Budgeted for
insurance.
what?
How much do we have it, but how much do we have budgeted?
Health insurance,
Yeah.
increase in health insurance.
In which line? They're in 4 or 5 different lines.
No, so overall, Adam generally does like a blanket 7%, 8%. What do we have budgeted this year, Adam?
280.
For this year, for the health insurance, is that what?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, for this year, that's very interesting because, let me pull it up here real quick. This year, we budgeted, $640,000 for health insurance, and next year, we're budgeting 621,000. So we save overall $18,700 for a 2.93% decrease.
That's the new number, Megan.
So your new budget, so what you're saying is your new budget has no money budgeted for a health insurance increase. You only have money budgeted for a health insurance decrease.
I think it's based on the need for the insurance. So it's like, who's taking the insurance?
No, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
every year when we do the health insurance renew, there's generally an increase, right? And in the past we've budgeted, because at the time that we're doing the budget, we don't know what the actual increase is going to be. So we've budgeted generally ballpark like 7 or 8%. Is there 7 or 8% increase budgeted in this budget, or is it increase does this budget reflect a 2 point whatever it is decrease in the insurance?
The budget amount, is a 2.93% decrease, even though the premium went up 8%. We've been pretty flat funded with the health insurance. As a matter of fact, health insurance for next year is $621,000, and in 2021, we budgeted 643. So it's $20,000 less than it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so there's been a trend with.
Yep, no, Adam,
with
I get that. I understand that. I'm not worried about the last 2, 3, 4 years. I'm just looking at so you have already received from your insurance brokerage, you use Willis, I'm assuming we still use Willis, that you have already received that for the year 2025 or 2026, that the insurance for the employees are going to go down 2.5% or whatever it is, and therefore your budget has no increase built in for health insurance. Is that a correct statement?
No, it has no increase budgeted if there's somebody that comes in, but
Right.
generally speaking, if we have a position that comes in, it's based on replacing somebody who may have left at a higher
Yep. No,
salary.
Adam, I'm talking about if you're just looking at the population you have right now, you have already received the actual because again, remember, you and I talk about this, I know every year. Generally, when we're doing the budget, we don't know what the actual renewal is going to be, right? We don't know what the actual percentage. So you always have to pick like a generic number, 7, 8%, just to make sure that you have enough to cover it. And then the actual tends to come in differently. But you're saying that you have already received the correct amount, the exact amount that your insurance is going to either increase or what. And again, I'm not talking about what has happened in the past. I'm talking about just the plan itself. The Connecticut Health Insurance Plan has a projected amount of increase that we have to pay. We already know that exact percentage increase at this point in time. Yes or no? And I'm not trying to be rude about it. I'm just trying to make sure I
We get
understand.
it, we get it, Megan, like,
Yeah.
we've talked about it, so yeah, it's fair.
No, yeah, I'm not trying to be rude if it's coming across. I'm just making sure I'm asking the correct question.
Have we gotten the Connecticut healthcare plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Number?
partnership numbers have come in,
Okay.
and this is the actual numbers. They're in
Okay,
the
so it's the
budget.
actuals. So you
Yeah,
have
so,
already,
and,
so back in, so
and
back in April.
these are solid numbers.
Okay, so back in April, when you were doing the budget prep, you would have had an estimated increase amount in there. You've already taken that increase out based on the actual numbers you received from Willis and the partnership?
Yes, we've gone through, and we've been in the partnership for years, and they're very, very good.
Yeah, it's just, we went from the estimated numbers in April, and then once we got the real
Yes,
numbers, we
yes,
updated them for this.
because they gave us the percentages, and then we prorate these and look at what's happening, and these are the numbers, and you're gonna be okay with this insurance budget numbers. That's
So
the
these are the
280.
actual numbers. So if you have no changes in employee status, right? Or, somebody takes family or somebody drops family. If you just look at your population right now and it stays exactly the same over the next year, the amount that is in your budget is the exact amount of money that we will pay. Yes?
Well, again, we've experienced many years of trends, and it does
Adam, I'm
go
just
up
talking
and
about
down,
actuals.
but it's remained stable.
Megan, I want to tell you, I did talk to Crystal about this, and she said what we have in the budget now just covers what the number coming in is got.
Okay, and that is going forward as well through
Yeah,
the
going
next school
forward,
year.
but I got the numbers yesterday, I was in here signing checks, and she said what we got covers what we got, but there's no extra hanging around. So, from that point of view,
Well, all I can say is that our trend and our experience, and you can see it here,
but the hard number
you
is
know,
what
we've
she's
been
talking
able
about.
to, handle, and budget appropriately for health insurance. And out of the eight years of, health insurance, we had 2 years that we had a deficit. The last one was in 23-24, and there was a $12,808, deficit. And then the one before that was almost 5 years ago, and that was a $50,000 deficit, but we handled that. Other than that, we've had savings of 18,000, 61,000, 23,000, 10,000, $239. So we've been on the money for budgeting for health insurance.
Yeah, we're on the nose, I think, Megan, we don't have an overflow this year. is my.
No, yeah, and it's, if it was estimated early on in the budget from January to April, because we
Yeah.
didn't have a number, then it's been adjusted.
It's
That's
been adjusted.
based on the number you received for 25, 26.
Yes, but then they wound up giving us the actual, projected figure.
And that's in here. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
That's
the
what
actual
we're
projected figures are in the budget.
Correct. Thank
And
you.
I feel confident that if we've done 6 out of 8 years with, slight surpluses, that we've budgeted appropriately. And I will go with the trends.
Okay, thank
One of
you.
my main concerns is utilities and what we're gonna be spending for food service. Because last year we ran way over, and there's no more funding coming in. We don't have actual number there for last year's, we got the approved. And this year it's like 34, that's minus that 5,000, I know at least, in the food service. That's not being covered this year at all. So, and if you look at the gas prices, under even special ed, I'm worried about the gasoline, the diesel, the contracted service is for special ed transport. How did we get away with dropping that almost $10,000 in line,
That's based,
Yeah, I'm just worried that rental equipment is under, the line, I'm trying to see this line.
Yeah, but realistically, if there's a need, we move money throughout the year, right? We vote on it and move it.
But we don't have much to move this year, Megan. Some of these.
Yeah, I mean the reality is though, Kathy, the budget failed. So it doesn't matter if we like it or not, right? We're working with what we're working with. We just have to.
I know, but we may have to go back. I'm just worried that taking more out is going to put us in a dangerous position, not being able to fund what's necessary for
Any
children.
potential increases, like us.
Yeah, I don't think us having a choice.
Yeah, it's not, I mean,
Yeah.
we're already going down the road of essential spending.
Spending already,
Yep.
and it's not even the beginning of the year.
It's not beginning of the
I'm
year, but
just
there's
worried about doing more. I realize
Well,
the
we have
town is
unexpected
increasing their
costs that
budget
come up.
20,000.
Yeah, the town made some decreases, and then they kept the firefighter weekend
Yeah, they have
stipend,
to.
which is, those are in the best interest of our town. We want to obviously work together and work in community to do what's best and to keep things flat. It's around 20 grand, which we're working with. Obviously, the Medicaid seems like a very
Yeah, that's an
reasonable
easy one.
situation.
Yeah.
I am hesitant to, take out student services, in any way, or, anything that's going to impact a student. But if Adam and Amy have reviewed this specific situation based on the needs for the next school year, I mean, I have to, agree with their positioning here. Amy, did you have any last thoughts on that one piece? Sorry if you're driving or something.
No, I had to find the unmute. No, and I just think that, if there was another para, let's say, for example, that decided to resign, leave, retire, we would need to replace that person. So a part-time person, with, significantly less hours is a little bit more manageable than somebody that we would need full day. So with the structure of the preschool and what we had to move to, we're only servicing 4-year-olds in the afternoon. So that shrinks us, pretty significantly, and being able to manipulate where, some of our support staff can go while we're still running our program. And the thing about preschool lunch is that preschool lunch, in the morning, that will turn into what we're projecting is to a snack time. So there are requirements to fulfill for that for preschool. And our preschool lunch program would be offered to our 4-year-old program in the afternoon. But we were considering, and we had talked about this before, that they become part of our lunch program.
Yeah.
And parents would supply their own lunch, or they would be welcome to purchase lunch from the cafeteria. And that gives us, a savings in changing our program in that manner also.
Okay.
This year's lunch program is going to be significantly more expensive because we don't have the volume problem.
I think
Amy,
my biggest concern,
Amy, will you still have out of town kids in that 4-year program, or is that just going to be Voluntown residents?
That's Voluntown residents. The what we needed to look at was the numbers of those kids. So I don't want to as of right now open that up. And as
Agreed.
of now, our non-resident population is shrinking because right now we're pretty close to capacity of the 30 students of being in Voluntown.
Yeah, and that preschool offering is becoming a mandate in the state, correct? So eventually towns will offer their own, or is that no longer the case?
They're still working on that. So I mean, if they give us universal preschool, that would be great. I'm not sure how much if they're already cutting us now, I'm not sure how much.
Sure.
Yeah, they're going to be willing. And if that's the case in other towns, then they would just go back to their own town.
Okay.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it is
to
a
Kat,
tough thing if they don't have it, it was a nice, obviously, you just want
And
all
that's,
kids to have the offering,
yeah,
but
and that's money, we don't get that tuition money, that's money that just goes to the town.
yeah.
That we're paying for, the teacher, the lunch, the whatever, and it goes directly back to the town.
I think my biggest concern with all of these cuts is that every cut that we make is influencing only the pre-K to 8 kids. Everybody else is set in stone. The other high schools are set in stone. The outplacements are set in stone. So this is just influencing. Every penny that we cut is influencing our pre-K to 8 kids. They can only be influenced so much before we need to start thinking about, like, do we offer all of the same high schools anymore, or do we bring those kids and consolidate into fewer high schools? Do we cut out Griswold? Do we cut out NFA? And that's going to end up being the hard line if these numbers keep influencing the pre-K to 8 kids, because that's all we're cutting right now.
That's all we have control of, and we're working on the other part.
Yeah.
Narrowing down, we just picked up to BOAG and stuff.
To her point, we
Yeah.
have control over school choice and.
But if this
Please remember-
continues, I think that's where it needs to go, is we need to start influencing the kids outside of pre-K to 8 as well. Because every time you cut something, and these little kindergartners have their programs cut, or a para cutting from pre-K, it's not across the board. The across the board would be pre-K to 12 being cut, and it's not.
Right, but we
It's
can
only
also,
Side that I think that we need to
Work on
share with the town how our budget works and what we put into it and what our continued needs of our kids need to be supported.
right.
And that we're all feeling the increase, whether you're a school is still a business at the end of the day. It needs to be run efficiently. And there's costs that go up, and we're all feeling that. And I'm hoping that people understand that also influences a school as well. And we need to do our best to support our kids, K to 12.
Right.
and K to 12 plus.
Plus, and I'm hoping that, it was understood that the age where we kept repeating this, is that educating kids to 22, almost to 23, with the changes that were out of our control. It was a mandate that was put upon us, that is also costly. So, and I beg people to continue to understand that there's costs from that end as well that also impact our K to 8 guys, like you said, that there's many things that we're trying to do here and trying to manage. And I'm hoping people recognize that and can see that we are trying to do the best we can with very little.
Yeah, within a tightly managed budget, and year over year, we have good faith in our process and the people that are managing it. Obviously, Adam has put his heart and soul into this year over year. For 21 years, he's worked on these budgets, and it's not lost on, I don't think, this community, how much goes into the fact, that every single nickel and dime is here for a reason, and it pretty much flattens out to get back to the town, whatever,
Oh, yeah.
$1,000 goes back to the town. Anything that we can give back to the town, an expenditure-only budget, goes back to the town. And it will, in the end of the day, too, and it goes directly to the undesignated fund, and this is how we work. And we never have to go back to the town, because that's how efficiently this budget works. But and we understand it's a difficult time for a situation based that's out of, the revaluation is hitting everyone very hard. So that's what we're doing. We thank you, Adam, for coming up with something to work to meet the needs of what the town is asking, and that way we can support all the services we have.
This is it.
And you're chasing after grants continually. We don't have a grant writer, you are our grant writer.
And those have
And those
decreased.
grants have specific qualifications, and they can only be used for, monies can be only used for that specific thing that we apply the grant for. We cannot take any extra and apply it toward another item, a line item. I think I'd like that to be understood as well, that the grant is for that particular
And,
Highly
focus
regulated,
agenda. It's very highly regulated, has a lot of stipulations attached to it.
and you bring up a good point, Annika, because last year at this time, we budgeted, 6,600 in the lunch program, and there was on and off again, thinking that we were gonna get the grant continuing for free and reduced lunch. And then they eliminated that, and so, we didn't have the money in, thinking we were gonna get that. So this year, we're in deficit. That's why there's such a big increase in the lunch program. Lunch program cost about 120,000, and what do I have, about 30,000 in the budget to cover it? So, and the commodities, the healthy food reimbursement, and the state reimbursement for meals served, and the collections of the students pay for the other 105,000. So, this is where we are, but it's just a roller coaster ride, but we have to be careful about the grants and what's happening. That was a tough one. That was a big increase in the budget. I didn't like it, but we had to absorb it.
So as I understand it from wow, it's raining out there. Sweet rain. Anyway, it's hot over here. So I guess there is going to be the timeline moves past June 30th, so we're past the deadline for the budgeting based on these results. So the next meeting will be July 8th. July 8th is the next meeting to review these proposed budgets. And then it appears there'll be a referendum the following Tuesday, I believe, the 15th. So at that point, we need to implore the town, all the parents, the teachers, anyone that lives here that supports, obviously supports our town, go to the voting ballots and please vote for the budget that we're proposing. That's it's essential that we get that support. So get out there, please. We do need a motion.
So motion to accept the budget proposal.
So yes, it's a motion to accept the adjusted budget proposal for 2025-26 of $7,379,927, which represents an increase of 1.07% from the current year's budget.
Motion.
All in favor?
Regrettably,
Aye.
Regrettably, aye. Yes.
I'll give it an eye,
I know, I'm sure.
Okay. Everybody get their says?
And Megan said that,
Okay. Well, majority passes.
Megan and Val.
You guys?
Will you guys say aye, so Megan and Val?
Sorry.
Dee Dee's just asking.
Yeah. I that's fine. I'm trying to think. I didn't hear the actual vote.
Oh,
Sorry.
like, who voted what?
Yeah, no, did you say all in favor?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not voting opposed.
Okay.
I said aye.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Is that all in favor?
All in favor.
Oh,
Yep,
thank
motion
you,
passes.
thank you.
All right. Yeah, she's regrettable, like me.
Yeah, with, strong feelings.
Strong feelings that we don't have to go back to the town. Anything else? No? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Val.
Okay,
Thank you
this,
all.
this is my final Board of Ed meeting.
Oh. I said that last time.
I can't believe it.
It really is.
It really is.
Unless we do a special on Friday.
Really
Shut
time
this
for
down.
cupcake.
Close the conversation.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, thank you too.
You've got some
night.
built-in
Good night.
savings coming for 25, from 26, 27. NFA tuition goes down